Hello there, my name is Victor Ogunyika, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.
Over 1,000 people are benefiting from free medical services provided by the FCT chapter.
Interested in this news. Arsenal's first club transfer record signed.
Good morning, viewers. You're welcome to Vanguard Live, and this is Today in the News. Here we read and give in-depth analysis on some of the front stories making headlines across Nigeria. I'm Damlola Ogushaki, and I'm with my co-host
Precious Chikudi.
Precious, how was yesterday?
Yesterday was good, considering the fact that the road was a bit clear, but I really don't like the fact that coronavirus was making us have free road, and there was not a lot of traffic, and it was also scary as well, with the whole increase in number of people who have the coronavirus. It's a whole lot of thing for us. It's increasing by the day, by the minute, by the hour. It's like everybody stays glued to their TV, looking out for what's the number now, that kind of thing. So it's really hard.
Okay, without much let's go to the review of the papers this morning, and we're starting with the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And on the front page of Vanguard, we have coronavirus, widespread fear as Kyari, Bauchi governor tests positive. Cases now 44 as NCDC confirms new cases in Lagos, Ogun, Bauchi, and Abuja. Presidential task force inspects Aso Rock. Jackma's test kits arrive. Why Aisha Buhari shuts office for 2 weeks. PDP urges Buhari to speak on villa status. Oshibanjo conducts meetings via video conferencing. You can see more of these on page 5 of the Vanguard newspaper. And moving on to other stories, we have Kano, Benue send workers home for 2 weeks as Plateau shuts markets and clubs. And on the front page of Vanguard, we have a photo story of the airport, departure hall of the Muritala Mohammed International Airport, Ikeja, Lagos, without the usual crowd of travelers after closure to international flights as part of measures to curtail the spread of coronavirus. And moving on to stories above the nameplates, on page 36, we have COVID-19. Sanwo-Olu shuts markets across Lagos. Public gatherings reduced to 25%. Osun shuts weekly markets as lawyers vow to monitor illegal police arrests. Urges participants of AMVCA to go on self-isolation. And 50 soldiers killed in Boko Haram ambush. You can see more of this on page 32. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have Reps pass bill for coins to get 50% pay refund, and you can see more of that on page 19. And moving away from Vanguard, we go straight to the Nation.
And on the Nation, we have major headlines: COVID-19, Buhari's chief of staff Kyari, governor positive. We also have Buhari test negative, Oshibajo in isolation. My health okay, says Gaba Shehu. We have confirmed cases now 44. Well, it's now 46 now, says NCDC. Lagos other stores, market closed. Edo, Osun, and Ondo Rivers shut market. As well as we have, Senator Rose Oko dies in UK. at 63. Lawan Ayade Mons. You can see more on that story on page 40 of The Nation. And also Amotekun Oshun Ondo Ekiti begins recruitment. That story can also be found on page 43 and also on page 11. Nigeria others to lose a $65 billion revenue. ECA wants Africa. And away from The Nation, we move straight to the Punch.
And on the front page of the Punch, we have fear groups ministers, governors as villa guests as Kyari AIDS test positive. And the riders, we have Buhari's chief of staff visited Germany, Egypt after Nigeria's index case. Oshibanjo tests top Aso Rock officials, Kogi governor go into self-isolation. Panic in Bauchi as Governor Mohammed's positive status is confirmed. 62-year-old UK returnee tests positive in Ogun. 32 contacts isolated. And you can see more of that on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. And on page 8, we have varsity lecturers. Unions attack ASUU over strike. More of that can be seen on page 9. And lastly, on the front page of the Punch, we have a massive economic health crisis looms, says CBN. You can see more of that on page 25. And from the Punch, we move straight to Daily Trust.
And on Daily Trust, we have before testing positive for COVID-19, Kyari mingles with governors, ministers, others. His engagement in 10 days, Oshibajo in self-isolation. Plans to isolate key functionaries on underway. There are pictures of the Abba Kyari basically with Governor Yahaya Bello and a couple of other dignitaries. And we have CBN retails benchmark interest rate at 13.5%. That story can be found on page 19. Boko Haram, 47 soldiers killed in Borno. That story can also be found on page 44. And hundreds of returnees from Europe, US not in self-isolation. That story can also be found on page 6. And lastly, on page 42, we have National Assembly shuts down, says no lawmaker tested positive.
Okay, and that is all we have on the paper review for this morning. But of course, we still have the second segment, which is the in-depth analysis that we give on some of the stories making headlines on some of these newspapers. So stay with us, don't go anywhere. We'll be back after the break.
If you are a parent, chances are you're worried and have questions about just how contagious coronavirus is and whether your child could be at risk. Misinformation has cropped up across the internet since coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's now called, began spreading. So we asked UNICEF's health experts to get us the facts. Here are 6 things they think you should know. The virus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets from an infected person and by touching surfaces that are contaminated. Tell your children to maintain at least 3 feet of distance between themselves and people who are coughing, sneezing, and have a fever. Symptoms of coronavirus can include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. In more severe cases, infection can cause pneumonia or breathing difficulties. More rarely, the disease can be fatal, but that's mainly among older people with pre-existing conditions. Wash your hands frequently for at least 20 seconds using soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Use your elbow, like this, or use a tissue and then throw it in the bin immediately after.
We are working with the Ministry of Health on protecting our citizens from COVID-19 virus. As a government, this is now a key priority for us. I therefore enjoin you to ensure that adequate medical provisions and other welfare requirements are afforded
Welcome back, and if you're just joining us, this is still today in the news, and this is our newspaper analysis segment, and we're talking coronavirus is still in the COVID-19 mix. And yesterday we had the Buhari chief of staff Kyari, and the governor tested positive. That's the chief of staff to the president, that's Malam Kyari, has tested positive to the virus. Also, Bauchi governor Bala Mohammed has also announced that he tested positive to the pandemic, and the vice president Yemi Osinbajo has also received like members of the Economic Advisory Council EAC, along with Malam Kyari, has set himself into self-isolation in line with the Nigerian Center for Disease Control (NCDC) requirements. Kyari visited Germany and Egypt, and he and the Minister of Power, that's Saleh Manman, met cement officials over the power deal signed with the company. And also, Kyari also attended like the FEC meeting and also traveled to Kogi State to sympathize with the state governor Yahaya Bello over the death of his mother. And also the Bauchi governor attended the NEC meeting as well, and there were fears that both of them might have infected some of their colleagues with this disease, considering the fact that they did not know that they had this disease up until this time around. And as a result of that, Sanwo-Olu also has ordered the partial closure of banks in Lagos State. The government placed a partial closure on banking activities on the state as part of the measures to break the cycle of transmission of coronavirus. He also directed all markets and stores trading in non-essential commodity to close for 7 days. The directive will take effect from March 26, and like this whole thing is really burden on me, because yesterday I remember as soon as he announced the closure that on Thursday all markets will be closed, I noticed that some of the supermarkets were like packed, cars everywhere. In fact, it was like a new dimension of traffic from nowhere. Everyone was sort of blocked around my area, and I noticed that some supermarkets or some people have intentionally inflated the prices of their commodities, because a couple of weeks ago, or let's say like last week or so, I went to buy a particular item from the supermarket, and I already had this price in my head. And naturally, because I visit that supermarket often, so I already know when they bring in new goods and stuff like that. But I got to the supermarket, it was still looking like how I left the store like last week, and they had not bought new things. But then the price of some of the things I bought had increased. I was wondering, because when I got because I went there with when you already have the price of what you want to buy and you have your money in your hand, and when I just get there, I'll just go buy what I want to buy and then leave immediately. I got there and they're like, no madam, it's not the price, it has increased. I was like, what is going on?
I think I was in the supermarket yesterday, and I was about to pay for an item. After picking it, I think the item was usually 1.8 or so. As I was at the point of payment, and they just increased it in front of me and told me, no, it's no longer 1.8, it's now 1,900. Well, in front of me right now, you're increasing the price.
So it's really burdening someone, the fact that a lot of Nigerians will want to take advantage of this whole process. Like, you should be your brother's keeper. Like, don't increase things. People are even finding it really hard to feed in this time. There's no money. We're getting close to a recession, the way it's looking like.
Yes.
Especially the fact that nobody can work. Even the work from home is not even convenient. Like, we shouldn't do that. We should even be our brother's keepers. In other countries, we see how some people are even giving out food items to people who are they cannot basically afford some of these things, and then we're increasing. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. And yeah, you have more stories on
okay,
that.
Due to President Muhammadu Buhari's chief of staff above Malam Kyari, testing positive for coronavirus. The NCDC, that's the Nigerian Center for Disease Control, took President Muhammadu Buhari's blood sample on Monday for test, and the results released yesterday, it came out negative for coronavirus. So,
All right. So also yesterday, we had reports that from the Commissioner of Health, when he brought out and came out and said that if you know you attended the AMVCAs, you need to self-isolate, because it happens to be that one of the cases that was reported that suffering from also the COVID-19 had also attended the AMVCA. So if you know you attended the AMVCA, you were a participant or an attendee, this is the time for you to self-isolate, because you don't know, you need to just protect yourself and protect those around you. And also we also have the gist of Aisha Buhari shut office for 2 weeks, and the reason why she did that was because apparently one of her aides had traveled to London, but on her arrival, the First Lady advised that she should stay away for 14 days, but the staff was said to have defied the advice and had come to work. And the First Lady would rather not put the life of her other staffs and also the presidency in jeopardy, so she had to shut down her office. And also I was listening, I think I checked on the papers, and I also heard that some lawmakers who came into the country were also refusing to be tested of coronavirus. Like, in these trying times, do you want to be putting yourself and your family at risk? Where are we going to move away from the you don't know who I am, kind of factor? Even in a case like this, that nobody even knows where they would get this kind of virus from. So I don't know, we need to do more on all of that, yes. People saying, because once you already feel like you're not feeling too well, you should go to the hospital, because you don't want to endanger the lives of other people around you. And we already know that this virus, basically, for people who are even still young, they have tendencies of being able to fight this virus, not the older people. So if you have like your old mom or dad, you want to put them at such risk. It's not a good one, at all. You have more stories.
Yes, part of the ways to curtail this pandemic, that's COVID-19, different governors have put different measures to curtail it. And we have the Kano state government that declared a 2-week work free for the state of civil servant as part of the measures to curtail this coronavirus. Meanwhile, Niger state government and the state of assembly yesterday disagreed over the curfew that is imposed on the state by the state governor Abubakar Bello. Why this House of Rep and different people said that instead of using the word curfew, that issued user restrictions, that this curfew that he has placed, instead of preventing coronavirus, is going to cause economic issues. Also, we have a Benue State Governor who yesterday ordered a civil servant from grade 1 to 11 to observe work from home, and also level 13 and above were directed to take charge and offer skeletal service to the government. And Imo State government yesterday also ordered the closure of nightclubs and late night restaurants in the state. Also, electricity workers are threatening to shut down power within 24 hours if the other people fail to provide preventive measures for their staff. They're threatening to pull out from the power sector, and this is really causing a lot of panic to the people, saying that they are at home, and the power sector are also planning to withdraw power within 24 hours. What do you think about this, Precious?
It's a hard time, and trying times too. So I think everybody's just being careful, because we don't know who has it, we don't know who has come in contact with who has it. So it's a transfer, it's a long process. So I think that's the reason why they want, and they should be giving all these things.
They are just looking after their staff, saying that if they don't give them the adequate things needed,
we should be giving to them. Especially now that the billionaire Jack Ma, has brought in some equipment and
I think a source said it arrived yesterday. Yeah, that the kits arrived yesterday. Some of the ventilators and different.
So exactly, that's basically the things that we need, and that would help us. So let's just go with you and then read some of the figures of what's happening right now. And breaking news, 2 cases of COVID-19 has been confirmed in Nigeria, one in Lagos and one in Osun. That was at 7 a.m. this morning. We had that report, and the current case as it is, Lagos has like 30 cases. FCT, that's Abuja, has 8, Ogun has 3, Ekiti has 1, Oyo has 1, Edo has 1, Bauchi has 1, and Osun State has 1, making a total of 6 confirmed cases. So it's spreading like wildfire, and we need to start to put it under undue, like when you start to look inwards, and once you feel like you are feeling feeling some kind of whatever, just go check yourself. I was seeing somebody post something on social media. I was saying now every Nigerian feels like they have coronavirus because of any small thing. You feel like, my throat is itching me, or I have cough, or
I think
all this kind of
someone was telling me
basically.
this morning, due to last week we announced that the new symptoms have arrived. That's a loss of taste and loss of smell. And he was saying, yesterday he couldn't feel his taste and he got scared and had to do everything that would bring his taste bud back. So also in anticipation of this economic lockdown, the telecom sector in Nigeria has they've provided different conditions that would help provide each free service throughout the period that this pandemic will last. So if you want to see some of these conditions, you can get a copy of the Vanguard newspaper. You can get it inside. And away from that also, we've been talking of this coronavirus, so you have more details on COVID-19?
Not really. What we have now is just, like preventive measures, like remember that social distance is really, but you can see the distance between Dami and I, it's a long one. I usually we sit closely by, but
to discuss more on this.
Exactly. So you need to ensure that you practice social distancing, self-isolate if you've exposed yourself so much. Like I read before, if you attended the AMVCAs, or you greeted somebody that attended AMVCAs, or you're around somebody that attended AMVCAs, you still need to self-isolate because you don't want to spread the virus. And also ensure that you wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. Ensure that you have your hand sanitizer, especially in places where you know that you cannot wash your hands. Ensure that you are clean, disinfect all your places, you don't know where it is. And the whole coronavirus is a droplet-borne virus, so someone can basically have it and come and maybe probably sneeze and then go away, and then you wouldn't have known. You just come and then you can just get it. So you just need to be very, 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 very careful.
I think this morning, when I was trying to board the bus, I noticed that almost everybody was with a hand sanitizer, and I think that is showing that Nigerians are really putting effort in protecting themselves and stopping this virus, with people with different hand gloves, people with face masks and all theirs, and I think it's a good thing. So away from coronavirus, also we have the military war, the terror war. Yes, there has over 200 Boko Haram and ISWAP terrorists in Sambisa forest. These airstrikes and the land bombardment by air and land component of operation of Lafia do Ombuk, a Boko Haram and ISWAP command center inside Sambisa forest. Between Saturday 21st and Monday 23rd March 2020 has led to the killing of over 200 terrorists and some of their commanders, with many of their logistic equipment and arms destroyed. And this is just as an explosion of one of the military trucks carrying bombs and other artillery weapons of the fighting troops meant for consolidation and protection of cleared strongholds captured from the terrorists exploded unexpectedly, killing more than 30 Nigerian troops inside the forest, and 15 of the soldiers who sustained various degrees of injuries as a result of the explosion have been evacuated to Maiduguri for medical interventions. You can get more of this story on Vanguard website, and that's www.vanguardngr.com, and that's including some of the stories that we discussed on the front pages of the papers. And also you can always subscribe to our YouTube channels and follow us on our social media platforms that are showing on your screen, as you can get more of our stories and breaking news. And with that, I think we've come to the end of this today's Today in the News. And you can always, take precaution method. I think that's the best. That's the best thing. Carry your hand sanitizer, wash your hands regularly. I think that is the main thing, and maintain the social distances. And we can see that many of the government officials are also doing this. I think we should also follow in these examples so that we can protect ourselves. But as we go, we'll leave you with some of the precaution methods that for this COVID-19. Have a lovely day. It's bye from me, Damola Obushaki, and
bye from me, Chukudi Precious.
If you are a parent, chances are you're worried and have questions about just how contagious coronavirus is and whether your child could be at risk. Misinformation has cropped up across the internet since coronavirus, or COVID-19 as it's now called, began spreading. So we asked UNICEF's health experts to get us the facts. Here are 6 things they think you should know. The virus is transmitted through direct contact with respiratory droplets from an infected person and by touching surfaces that are contaminated. Tell your children to maintain at least 3 feet of distance between themselves and people who are coughing, sneezing, and have a fever. Symptoms of coronavirus can include fever, cough, and shortness of breath. In more severe cases, infection can cause pneumonia or breathing difficulties. More rarely, the disease can be fatal, but that's mainly among older people with pre-existing conditions. Wash your hands frequently for at least 20 seconds using soap and water or an alcohol-based hand rub. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Use your elbow, like this, or use a tissue and then throw it in the bin immediately after. Not really. If you don't have any symptoms, there is no need to wear a mask. Hand washing is actually more important. If you're coughing or sneezing, it's advised that you wear a medical mask to help protect others. For now, there isn't enough evidence to support whether the virus is transmitted from a mother to her baby during pregnancy or what impact this might have on the baby. To date, there is no specific
Hello there, my name is Victor Ogunyika, and you're welcome to the midweek edition of Today in the News, and of course all of those newspapers across the Federation, and looking at the major headlines everywhere.